Alright, welcome back to another episode of Competent Conquest. Today I am playing against Steve. He's another Michigan player, one of Carl's locals, and I am playing my Dweghom list here. It's a tempered Steelshaper Warlord with an emphasis on using a lot of Wardens to kind of create a pretty aggressive list and just try to outgrind people in melee. He's playing a pretty standard Old Dominion build. 2 large blocks of Bone Golems, some Canophores, and a large block of Praetorians with a Strategos with Aura of Death 4 to create a pretty substantial early game presence. I got some Hold Ballista that are going to come on turn 1 with a Tempered Steelshaper just to start accruing tokens quickly and safely and consistently. We roll priority, and we both he brings on his Praetorians with Strategos. So really not a whole lot of reason to roll this die, because if I go first, I bring on my Ballista. If he goes first, he reveals his Strategos, and then I bring on my Ballista. So first turn doesn't really matter a whole lot. I can't get into the zone in the center because I'm only speed 5, and the center zone is only 6 inches, so you need 21 inches to get into it. Steve's Praetorians do not have a banner, so they're in the same boat, which actually plays pretty well to my advantage here because I'm able to not have to worry about them scoring the center zone on turn 2. My plan is to score the outside zone on turn 2 with the help of Ardent Kerawegh casting Rancor on the Hold Ballista that have marched into it. My plan is to go for the right side zone over here. Because if I go to the zone on my right, he doesn't have any obscuring terrain on any of this area for any regiments that would try to assault it. And since I'm planning on putting Hold Ballista over there, I want them to just have free and clear shooting at anything that would try to approach it. The majority of his threats are Bone Golems, so I will usually just be able to shoot at them. And my plan is pretty much to take that zone and run my larger block of Wardens up past it to continue pushing from that side. I'm hoping that the center zone just kind of ends up being a little bullet sponge area, and I just try to hold it off as long as I can. So my Tempered Steelshaper goes second, and all he does, of course, is generate a token. He does decide to push Praetorians towards the center zone. The advantage, or the disadvantage here, is that since he can't score it, he's not scoring any points on 2, so that gets me a little bit of an advantage early. Now, I'm looking at these 2 lists, and he's a much better list at going wide than me, so my plan is to pretty much completely ignore the zone on the far left. I'm just gonna give it to him. I'll run something over there if he ignores it, or if he doesn't commit heavily to it, and I'll put some stuff kind of close to it to make him have to commit like a real regiment, hopefully one of the Bone Golems. But my plan is to take my right side zone and then push towards the middle of the board, and hopefully take the right side and the center. And I'm just trying to prevent him from scoring the center zone as much as I can in the first 4 turns, and then hopefully take it back on turns 9 and 10. I have a lot of good shooting in this list, so I think I should be able to out attrition Old Dominion. As a faction, they tend to not do nearly as well against guns, so I'm just kind of stalling here, but I might as well pick up free tokens. So Steelshaper goes and casts probably Hone Blades, something irrelevant. And then the whole Ballista, they have to go towards the zone. The whole goal is to get that command stand barely touching the edge of the zone so that I can cast Rancor on them. So there's no reason for me to hide that information. He should know that I'm doing that, and therefore that's as good of a draw as any dead draw. And since I need my characters to actually be going in this list to generate tokens, I might as well move them quickly. So Wardens come on. I think a little bit about this, and I'm like, I don't really want Wardens running headlong into that very brutal brick of Praetorians. I really just want to get my shooting units up there and just try to pump as much damage into Praetorians as I can. He activates Hero Deacon, generates a spell. I go ahead and cast Rancor here. It goes off. It only needs 2 successes. I use this Fury token to represent it. So I am scoring that zone now. My command stand counts as 3 stands for the purpose, or 2 stands for scoring and 3 stands for contesting. His Praetorians move up. Of course, they're just short of the zone because of math. We actually discussed after the game that it's really important, because there's a couple scenarios where this happens, to get that banner on the Praetorians, just so that they can do that. Now, in my personal opinion, I would have probably run the Praetorians up the other flank, because they're a pretty strong unit and they will hold that flank pretty well. I actually slightly mess up my positioning on the Drake here. Just if you look at the line, I would like it to be able to double march straight forward and not have to wheel at all and get into the zone. Most importantly, actually, it probably should have been near the center, because if it was near, if the front corner of my Drake hits the exact point on that, then 21 on the center zone, 21 inches scores it. So that way the Drake would only have to do 1 more march to get into the zone on a later turn if I was able to clear out the center. It doesn't really matter. It ends up having to turn and go a different way. Other things happen. But it's something to consider, because that's an action that could be very relevant in a later turn. So he does not very well on his mediums, failing 2 of them on turn 3. With the +1 to the roll, that's pretty unlikely. And I believe I got all of mine in, so I wasn't paying attention to the roll. But yeah, I believe I get everything in on this turn. So my plan here is trying to figure out what I can do to these Praetorians. So my goal is to get the Fireforged on the hill in a place that they can shoot Praetorians. Because having as many AP2 shots going into Praetorians as humanly possible, or dwarferly possible, is probably the only way they're going to reasonably die. They're a very good, very defensive unit. I did score my 1 victory point on turn 2, and I apologize for the graphical display issue here, but it's nothing I can do about it now. So we're building our stacks. There's not a ton to think about this turn. I win priority, or he chooses to go first. Or so I end up winning priority here because I rolled a 1. He wanted to commit to that, and then I re-rolled. This doesn't really change anything. All I'm doing is sitting here blasting away with my Drake. Just get whatever damage I can in. A slightly below average roll, like obviously half shots, so 6 on average. But he didn't make any of them, so he really should take 5, so that's about right. And then I hit with all of them from my Sorcerer on top. And from those, he only takes 2. So that's about right. He should have taken nearly... The damage is pretty accurate. So he's going with Praetorian Guard. He wanted to go with them first. Wants to Memory of Old to get Bastion up, to take any reduced damage from shooting that he can. So he's just going to move up here and try to kind of get in the way of the center zone as much as possible. And he's able to get 4 stands on it. I mean, it would be 5 if that other backstand were alive. But thankfully, the Drake saw to the killing of that stand. So then I go with Tempered Sorcerer. I get 5 successful hits off with the spell. But he does pretty well on these. He saves 2 of them. So he ends up taking 3. And that's actually fairly close to what he should take. He should take slightly under that. So we're actually doing pretty well into the Praetorians on these early turns. Archimandrite comes on, moves up 12 inches, and unfortunately is just out of range. So this is one of those times where the Archimandrite should be on the other side of that regiment. Because if it is, he is closer to being able to cast spells to heal the Praetorians. I think the regiment should be on that side, but the Archimandrite should be in this position because it gives better access to this regiment. Instead of being slightly further away, it definitely adds up. The counter argument to that is that if he goes a little wider this direction, which he didn't do, so if he was, say, over here, just 2 stands to the left, then his Archimandrite, he could march up into the forest, and his Archimandrite could shoot spells this way to get better offensive potential. So either the Archimandrite is on the wrong side of the unit, or the regiment's slightly misplaced. Here he goes ahead and tries to cast his spell, but it doesn't work because you need to heal 3 wounds to heal a full stand. So because that stand was dead, there was no healing. It would only have healed 2 wounds, and he realizes that's a mistake. This is one of those cases where he would have wanted to go with Hierodeacon, kill one of his stands, and then cast the spell, and then Archimandrite would at least be able to heal that stand back to life, even though he would hit tier 2 on the start of the next turn. One of the reasons Old Dominion is not one of my favorite factions to play is that type of bookkeeping is tiring. Actually, the Hierodeacon spell did fail there, so he did get an arcane power or dark power that probably shouldn't have gone off. So I try to cast no casting on him, or no scoring on him, and it fails. It needed 3 successes because he was more than 4 stands, and I just failed to get the spell off. Only getting 1. It would have failed either way, but I considered just casting Rancor on myself there, and then trying to march because he only had 3 stands in the zone. Actually, that still wouldn't have allowed me to score, so it wouldn't. Or no, it would have allowed me to score because those are Wardens. So then trying to just march and get my command stand and at least one other stand in the zone would allow me to score it from him had I successfully cast Rancor. This is one of the reasons, if you'll notice, I'm not cycling my characters into the regiments immediately right now. There's not really a reason to. We're both kind of jockeying for space. So I want to go as late as possible. It's not going to really change the outcome of this turn because most of his stuff is on, right? So I make a copy of the regiment here to kind of do some pre-measuring. So my goal is basically to march just to get that corner on. My front left corner needs to stay an inch away. And this is one of those things where Tabletop Simulator can be a little bit tricky, but we both agree that it works. This measurement on the front corner here, which is hard to see, is about 1.4 inches. So the maneuvering is there to do to do a little bit more wheeling with the left side and the right side. But we decide to not do that due to the fact that it is annoying on Tabletop Simulator. So I just slide the regiment a tiny bit over. We had the movement, we had the space, so we just get in there and stop the scoring. Looking back on it, I should have pre-measured that when I was looking to cast the spell and not tried to cast Fear on him and just cast Rancor on myself, because I would have then be scoring. But I failed the spell cast either way, so it didn't actually change the game in any sort of relevant way. But had I successfully casted, it would have been worth 2 victory points, which is pretty big. So I bring the Wardens on. I just wheel them on from this flank. I actually slightly overestimate them. I think that they're going to... I feel like their charge should easily kill the Legionnaires. I end up moving this to a place where if he charges me, he won't be on the zone. And I'm within automatic charge range of him. So if he charges me, I probably don't die. I probably do a bunch of damage back. I might kill him, things like that. But also it would push him off the zone, and scoring, especially on Maelstrom, is exceedingly important. And I'm just making it, I'm 6.9 inches away. I just want to make sure that I'm not having to roll a charge with my Wardens. And I try to angle them in a way that if he charges into me, he'll be seen by Steelforged, so that I can countercharge with Steelforged in case I take a lot more damage than I expect to. So it's a lot of kind of maneuvering here, and this is sort of finicky stuff that comes up a lot. I measure to see if I can get outside of the range of the Herodeacon's blast spell, but I'm unable to do that and get my guaranteed charge, so I choose to accept that I might get nuked in the face by Herodeacon. His second Bone Golems come in, and now those Wardens over there are kind of distractionary, but those Wardens plus the Steelforged force him to commit Golems on this side. The thing that's very important about forcing these Golems to commit on the left side of the board is I can fairly confidently solidify the right side of the board, which means that all I have to do is shoot a lot of guns in the center of the board until I am able to successfully break through the lines and take the middle of the table from the Praetorians. If I am able to take the middle of the table from the Praetorians, and I can score both the right side zone and the center zone, the longer I can do that, the less chance he has of winning the game. And that's my whole game plan. Because I have access to Rancor, if I get it off, I beat him with just the command stand and the character stand. So as long as my Wardens live against these Praetorians, we're ahead. So I hit with 6 out of 18 with a take aim volley into the Bone Golems, and only 3 wounds go through. So he should have, he should take 5. Not hugely important, but I am needing those Bone Golems to die. So I score 1 point. He scores 1 point, and we wash on the middle zone because I was unable to get Rancor off. So now it's turn 4. His Canaphores come in automatically and his Legionnaires come in automatically because they're mediums. And this is a turn where I believe we spend a fair amount of time on our decks. So my Wardens on the far right have a banner, and I believe I need a 4 for this charge into the Bone Golems, and I'm really deciding if that's something I should like go for immediately or not. It's kind of a big deal. Obviously, if I get it off, it's really big. So some pre-measuring goes out here, and like I don't know if I kill the Bone Golems for sure, but it's obvious it's very big if I get that charge in. So we're looking at 21, 24 attacks on 4s, which is 16 hits, which is 8 wounds to Bone Golems. So that picks up a Bone Golem and a half, and then like a volley should a volley likely takes the other half of a stand, so he loses 2 Bone Golems there, being down to only 3. Potentially breaking, actually. Unlikely to break, but potentially losing 3 Bone Golems and breaking. So he wins priority, and he charges me. He just Bastion charges. I get bumped back slightly during his wheel, so we just kind of... We're going to fix this. Just to make sure that, like, my command stand is still in the zone. That's the thing that's very important here. He still has 3 stands in the zone. I have 4 stands in the zone. I go with Wardens. I would have charged with the center Wardens had that been necessary. But because I lost initiative here, I just charged with the Wardens over there, and I'm hoping to kill the Archie. I do hit with 2 fewer attacks than we would hope for, but he should live. On average, it's 12.67 hits, and he should save 2 and 1/6 of those ish. So he should be alive on a wound or 2, and he's alive on 3 wounds. It's not going to make a huge difference. So here Deacon goes and just shoots me for damage. I take some damage, so that turns into +1 success. And then I managed to fail all of my saves and 2 of my resolves. So those saves were on 3s, and I just failed all of them. So that was the start of where I got a little frustrated about dice on this turn. But it works out. So they rally, and the biggest issue is that those guys are 4 stands right now for scoring that zone, so I can't actually stop them from scoring it, which is sad. So I take another 2 wounds. And then I go with more Wardens. I don't want to go with those ones. I don't want to go with the center Wardens because of Aura of Death. So I go for this 4-up rerollable, and I roll 2. So that sucks. And then he comes back with what I believe is a 2-up rerollable or a 3-up rerollable. I think it's a 3-up because of the diagonal. I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't really matter. I think he rolls like a 6. So he goes with Bone Golems, and he charges into my Wardens. So he's considering trying to make a cheeky play where he moves past me and then, like, gets into my hold Ballista next turn. But he would have to double march. He'd give up scoring this turn, and he'd likely still be in charge range of those Wardens. And the hold Ballista could just double march backwards. So there's just a lot of risk to doing that. And even if he goes through and kills the Ballista and the Steelshaper, like, that's good for him. Obviously, it's great. But if he loses priority, the Wardens just flank him, and then that's really bad for him, because then he's only one Aura of Death stand into them, and they have to reform, and take a bunch of damage, and things just get very bad very quickly for our friendly neighborhood bone golems. So he has 17 attacks here, and he just chooses to hit with 16 of them after Relentless Blows. And this really stung. I only saved 2, so I take 14. So I spend 3 tokens on the resolves right away. I rolled too many resolves there. I actually should have rolled 11, but it's fine. I took 3. So the Fireforged go. They just take aim and volley. So they only hit 5 times. So like that, this feels a little bit rough, because they should hit with 6 and 6.5, so almost 7. So I just took 16 out of 17 attacks from bone golems, and then I saved poorly, and I rolled good on the resolve, thankfully. But I mean, I was on 5s, so I actually rolled average on the resolve. So yeah, I didn't even roll particularly well on the resolve. No, I rolled poorly because I failed 3 of them, and I should only have failed 2. So we're just taking way more damage than we should on this side of the board. And then the bone golem, or the Fireforged, do like 2 points do 2 wounds, which is fine. He has tenacious, so he tanks through that a little bit. Hellbringer continues to just be doing its work. Like, the only thing we can reasonably do is just shoot and try our darndest. So Hellbringer hits with 4. So, we're 3 hits under what we should be this turn so far with our AP2 shots. And he makes 2 of those saves, which again is over. And I believe he makes all of these on these 6s. He rerolls the 1/6 because he takes 1. Okay, so it's just another, like, I'm starting to get a little frustrated by dice at this point, which you never give up. It's important to never give up when you have some dice-based issues, but it can sting a little. So he's deciding where to bring on one of his 2 remaining Legionnaires. He decides to bring one in a position to try to threaten my Hold Ballista. Now, I'm not super worried about Legionnaires charging Hold Ballista. Like, they're going to have to come in 2 wide. They're only 4 attacks, so he's going to have, like, 11 attacks. And they hit on 3s, and then I save on 3s. And then I have Aura of Death and Memory of Breath there. So they're Aura of Death 2 up to 3 on all of the Ballista stands, and Aura of Death 1 on the Steelshaper stand. So he's trying to determine if wheeling in from the board edge helps him. I don't think it does. It's just the command stand on the inside stand, and then just getting in the zone is really, in the next 2 turns, is really the only thing that actually matters. So I'm feeling fairly good about the situation here, aside from the just sheer amount of damage I'm taking. The Wardens are engaged. The Tempered Sorcerer then fails a spell. Just doesn't get it off. We were really counting on that to kill another Praetorian stand, but thankfully it's not actually engaging the models due to the way the stands were like set up. You could only get 4 in on my boys, so at least that part helps. He just marches up Legionnaires and Archie. I go with Kerawegh. We measure. I'm not within 10 of him, so I go ahead and just Rancor myself, which thankfully does go off. He goes with Legionnaires. I believe he just marches on a new one, just on the inside of my right edge Wardens here. This is a pretty reasonable place to put these Legionnaires, though it doesn't do a ton for him. I probably would have put them on the other flank, just to be something to hold that zone, so that the Bone Golems and the Canophores that come in later aren't stuck on that zone. You just want to be able to have the Legionnaires just chill there. So he goes ahead and casts Rancor on his unit, and we double-checked that I was out of range. Obviously, I rolled 3-1, so it would have passed. But this is important because now I am 5 scoring stands to his 3, so I'm going to score the center zone. And that was a big, dice fail on a previous turn. Last turn, I would have, if I had gotten 2 more victory points on turn 3 by getting that casting off, it would have been pretty substantial. Enjoy some fun tabletop simulator regiments deciding to lock hills with them. No one knows why they do that. If I was some sort of code wizard, I might be able to figure it out. So right now we're trying to figure out where all of these things are to try to figure out if it makes sense or is even possible for Bone Golems to charge me. I don't think it is. At the very least, I don't think it makes sense to do it. So he ends up just marching up. And being in a position to do a charge, hopefully kill me with impacts. I go ahead and unmake armor on his other Bone Golems to try to get them a little bit more shootable before I take aim and volley them. The reroll there was because I am actually Wizard 7, not 6, and I rolled 1 fewer dice than I should have. And had already successfully cast, so it was more just curiosity. So his Canophores are going to come on. He has to make a decision of where he wants these. But the placement of those Legionnaires on the center line kind of forces the Canophores to come in on the far flank, which I believe was his plan initially anyway. The issue, however, with that plan is that Canophores are much more valuable than Legionnaires, for example. So if the Canophores were in the middle, were coming down that center line and threatening my Wardens, I would be much more scared of them. But because they aren't, I'm not very scared of them. They're over on the side of the board, and basically their job for the rest of this game is to sit on that point. And I have to chew through Legionnaires instead of Canophores on this other far flank. Don't get me wrong, I think I would be able to do that, but still. So yeah, then I hit with 2 less shots than I probably should have, and he saves 4 on 2s instead of 3 or something. So he should take about 6, he should take 6.6 repeating from that, and he took 4. So it's just, this turn was very difficult from a dice perspective for me. it didn't really change that much. Like, it's not like I lost the game because of it or anything like that. It's not overwhelming. It was just difficult. Oh, so we dueled, and my Kerawegh missed all of his attacks, and then took 1 wound back and passed the resolve. My Steelforged, they pretty much are forced to just kind of hang back over here. They get into a position to threaten these bone golems if the bone golems kill my wardens, and also theoretically threaten the flank charge on Praetorians, because they don't have a ton that they can do safely. There was a weird opportunity, had I placed them a little bit more to the left, of just going in and trying to steal that zone. But as it was, I could only get 1 stand-in, which would only tie the left zone, which might have been worth it for 2 victory points, but definitely wasn't worth it for 1 victory point. So my Wardens go, and I eat Aura of Death 16 here, which is always fun. I save 1 above average, which is helpful. I'm not going to complain about it. And then I just Inspire Clash, going into him. So the Kerawegh makes 2 hit, or those are on 4. So 4 hits. And he's on 4s, however, because he does have Bastion up. So that just gets eaten by Tenacious, and then we have 13 attacks at Cleave 1 on 4s. And these guys rolled pretty good, so that helps out a bit. Get our 11 hits, and he takes 4 of those. And we're well on our way to trying to break some Praetorians. So I've got 8 tokens. I'm feeling fairly okay. I'm hopeful that my Hold Ballista can kill 1 golem before it clashes me. Realistically, I think the correct choice is actually to cast Harden 1 on my Wardens and then shoot the Bone Golems here. And just like accept that my Wardens on the middle line are probably going to die, or more accurately, that they're just going to get clashed and that they're hopefully going to have dead Praetorians before they take a turn. I don't want those Wardens going. He's just out of line of sight of my Wardens on the far left flank, so I can't do Clash charge the flank of the Bone Golems to just hopefully mess up his movement plans. Which I do look at and would have loved to be able to pull off. But I don't believe I was able, but I wasn't able to. I'm not really... We're both building our stacks here, and this is a pretty intense turn. So my Steelforged are in a position where they could charge, and I like that charge, because if they charge into the flank, like if they go first and charge into the flank, they just kill the Praetorians, or do a very significant amount of damage to the Praetorians. I believe only 1 stand would hit the terrain, maybe not. Actually, it looks like 2 wood, so that's probably not a viable charge. So he goes first with Praetorians. He uses Memories of Old to get Bastion, and then he just clashes. So the Strategos does 3 hits, and the Praetorians themselves have 16 attacks. This actually surprised me. I thought that they only had 4 attacks. I just thought it was funny. So we have 8 hits coming in, and I choose to spend 2 tokens, which is good that I did because I failed 4. And then I choose to automatically pass 3 of the resolves to heal more, and I pass the 1 remaining resolve. So I was able to use 5 tokens, heal 5 wounds, and end up actually healing 1 damage by the end of that. So then I go with the Drake, I shoot. Character doesn't roll super hot there. Well, he rolled average. Drake did okay. Drake did 7 hits. He saves those on 2s. He failed 4 of them, Tenacious 1. And did fail 1 of these from the shots. So I'm pretty happy about that. Looking back, I really should have just tried to... either should have gone with the Ballista first, or gone with the Wardens on the far flank first. I think Steelshaper into Ballista, into Kerawegh, into Wardens here was the correct play, because it lets me hopefully kill a Bone Golem or 2 if the Bone Golems are set up to activate later in the round. So this is a pretty big mistake that I make. I go with the Wardens on that side because I don't want them to die. And realistically, this is where I start trying to look to see if I had that flank angle, this, that, and the other thing. And realistically, the correct choice for me to make was to go with my Wardens into Bone Golems over here. But I really did stack this incorrectly. Like, I should have had the Hold Ballista going first, or Steelshaper into Hold Ballista going much earlier to try to get that -1 defense and hopefully kill a Bone Golem, and then only have to eat Aura of Death 9, so that I take significantly less damage and hopefully kill a Bone Golem with another Bone Golem with the Clash action, so that I'm not taking Enhanced Aura of Death from the draw event, and I'm taking significantly fewer attacks from the Bone Golems. And realistically, the Wardens on that flank were no longer relevant, right? Like, his Canifores and Bone Golems are both committed over there. Those Wardens are going to die. What's he going to do? Get a couple more spells out of his Archimandrite? My thinking out of it was that it would free up the Canifores to continue to move, but he wasn't gonna, he might have been able to kill me with the spell cast there. I also realized, I think I made a mistake in not dueling his Archimandrite, because with Pursuit of Ogham, however you say it, because I did break him with the Charge Clash action. So yeah, my command stand likely should have dueled and maybe would have killed his Archimandrite or his Hero Deacon on the previous turn. Might not have, but definitely should have tried. So the Fireforged roll well here, so I'm starting to feel like, oh yeah, I'm coming back around. And he rolls bad into the saves, so he takes 9, and that just cleans up the Praetorians. Puts him solidly into tier 3, though, which ends up being bad news when his bone golems go. And this is the reason why my shooting should not have probably gone when it did, right? The attacks from the Praetorians weren't that scary, and just allowing the shooting to go later in the round would have enabled me to have better tempo on this turn. I was given an opportunity to heal up my Wardens off of his Legionnaires charge, which is actually pretty helpful. These guys are not able to get within charge range, so they're not within 11, so they cannot march charge me. So they just double march and get in the zone, and off the back of their memories of old, now they're out contesting me. So they have 2 stands in, so they count as 4 scoring stands in the zone. So I go with Tempered Sorcerer here, and the only things in range are those Legionnaires. So I do 4 hits to them, and it gets stand. Not like hugely relevant, but the token does. The token matters. Those Legionnaires, just memory of old. I believe they decide not to go into the zone because they don't want to get too close. Because he doesn't want to lose Archimandrite. Oh no, never mind. He does. He just charges. If he wasn't tier 3, he would have been hindered, but he is tier 3, so. So 5 hits, and I save 4 of them. I spend so I save 4 of them, and I take a wound to make the resolve. Steelshaper goes, cast a spell, debuffing the Bone Golems, activates Ballista right off of it, and shoots the Bone Golems. Bone Golems haven't gone yet, so I'm like, let's do what we can. Again, only 8 hits. A little frustrating to only get 8 hits 2 turns in a row. But I believe he fails 5 of these. Yeah, he fails 6. So we're at least back on numbers there, and I'm able to kill a stand, which is pretty huge. So they just draw it, and then they clash. So I spend my token. So I'm down to 1 wound. And then I make my 9 saves. So I take 7. And then I tenacious those, so I have 6. Then I resolve 4. So I fail 1. So I take 6. So there's 2 wounds on this stand. And I realize actually that I healed back to full from the previous stuff, so I end up like switching which stand died, but it doesn't really change anything. So other Ardent Kerawegh. He goes ahead and casts Rancor on his own unit. I probably should have. Looking back on it, I think Archimandrite actually has Devout, so casting no scoring on him was likely better. But this makes me 5 stands, and he is currently 6 stands. So if I kill 2 stands with my Inspired Clash action, then I take the zone, I believe is what I was thinking when I cast Rancor there. So he's going with Bone Golems, and he's not sure what to do. He ends up just marching up. He recognizes that he has to get into this he has to go fight Steelshapers eventually, right? So this is my Inspire Clash in the middle, and I believe he actually dies. Yeah, he dies exactly from this, and that was very big for me. That was a pretty significant difference. I'm in a situation right now where I think if he march charges me in the flank, I'm just chill. So he does. He march charges me in the flank. I don't die to the impacts. But he's going to get the zone either way, and he'll kill me the following turn. Oh, wait, no, I do die to the impacts. I shouldn't die to the impacts, because it should do like 3 hits, and I should save like 1.5 of them. But I managed to take 6 wounds and exactly die to the impacts. So both of us, like, he got killed in the middle, and I got killed over there. But I wasn't going to stop him from scoring over there, so all it does is free up an action for the Canaphores on the following turn. So Kerawegh goes ahead and casts Rancor on the Ballista, which I don't believe matters. So when the Wardens go, I spend the tokens to reduce the Aura of Death to 13 from 15. So I take 6. And so I'm going through and doing math here, and I realize that I'm not actually sure what happens. Oh, that's right. I only had 1 wound on me, so I wasn't able to do it. So, and I still just failed the extra one. I believe there should be 1 more wound on this unit, or there should be 1 more Aura of Death that got rolled on that unit. So we clash, we do 6 hits into Bone Golems on 2s. And we're whittling them down. Had I should have gotten much earlier in the turn with those guys. Only taken I don't know. The correct play was definitely to just go Steelshaper, Ballista, Kerawegh, Wardens, and just try to do as much damage to those Bone Golems before they got to double. Well, before he got to tier 3, so they wouldn't be able to double tick up Aura of Death into me. But, you know, c'est la vie. I actually forgot that my Steelforged hadn't gone yet, so they make their charge. They charge in on the side that makes it hard for Canaphores to get into them. They do 6 impact hits, or 5 of the 6, and then because he has Hardened 1, just roll the rest of them. So they do 17 hits, and he's on 3s, and he just saves a bunch of these. He actually rolled kind of bad. He took 10. So the dice starting to come around. And this is the reason I'm a big fan of Steelshaper Warlord, is you can just kind of hang in there and give yourself time for your dice to come around. So now things are looking pretty interesting. I'm maintaining my lead, but it's not a huge lead. Like, I score 1 here, he scores 2. I believe it's 6-4. It's actually 8-4 because I killed his Warlord. But we forgot that. Usually just add it at the end of the game. So now I think I get a little smarter, and I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to go with Steelshaper into Hold Ballista. But he goes first, wins priority. I might have put Steelforged first this turn, because there is some advantage to putting Steelforged first. If they go before the Bone Golems, like, they could actually do a pretty significant chunk of damage to him. But I didn't. So we cast into the Bone Golems, and we draw, and then we shoot them. So we just really want to kill these Bone Golems. That's what we're going for. This time we hit 14 times. And we do 7. So that's right. It's just really important that the Bone Golems die there. We only needed to do 4 to kill them. So these Legionnaires are going to charge me. And they can't really get in more than this because they would run into the other combat. So they just charge and they make their clash attacks, and they only hit with 4, and I'm saving on 3s, and I fail 3 of them, and then I'm on resolve 3, I think, maybe 2. And I fail all of them either way, so I take 6. So I lose a stand, I take another wound. I'm not super worried about it. Steelforged. This is the reason that it would have been nice to have the Steelforged go earlier. That's part of why I chose them when I did in the stack, but I couldn't have them go first. So they do live, and they do 3 hits, and they're on like a wound. And those hits amount to nothing. The other Legionnaires are just going to, I believe they slide over. Like, you think he just uses his game mechanic. He just uses combat reform and just slides over. And hits with 6 out of 9. So I spend 1 token to heal, as I just really can't afford to die here. And I take 3. And then I spend another token to heal 1 of those, I believe. It's correct 2 here, because I'm not really worried about anything else. Because I have 3 wounds on me. And take 1. And I save it. I think I rolled 1 too few resolves there. It doesn't change anything. I think it's easy to get confused with them because I think of them as 2 points. So I should have 2 wounds on me and 1 more resolve. So I would maybe have 3 wounds on me, but those guys never get hurt again in this game. So it doesn't change anything. So Drake marches. Marches 7. The goal is kind of make it so that the Drake could reform and march into the center zone if necessary on the next turn, and it's just going to march up and take some pot shots. It needs to get into the hindering terrain so that it's not influenced by it. And then it goes ahead and manages to hit with 2 out of 10. And the guy on top does pretty good. It's with 4. So we kill a stand. Pretty happy with that. We should do about that. Close enough. Canaphores, just going to go ahead and this is kind of what I was talking about, right? Like, these Canaphores are in a position where they just have to sit on a zone. I can't ever really do anything to answer them. They're just going to sit on a zone the whole game. A Kerawegh here is pretty much just going to cast. I believe I cast Rancor because nothing else does anything. Arguably, casting Resolve would be interesting, because then I could clash without inspiring, but they've already gone this turn, so it doesn't do anything here. So Rancor goes off. Wardens go. They're just... I should be able to kill him without an inspiration, so my correct choice here is to inspire, or is to reform, to slide over a stand, put an extra stand in the zone, because he's currently counting as 4 for scoring, and I'm counting for 2 for scoring, or I would be able to put 2 stands in the zone. Oh, actually, I don't. No, because that would reduce contact, so there's just nothing I can do with them. I have to just Inspire Clash and kill his guys, and hope to kill one of his other stands. So Fireforged. Just wheel about 5, and then they're in range, so they just shoot. They hit once. I can't be too mad, though. They had a 10-shot hit earlier where he failed like 9 out of 10, so they've been doing pretty well overall. So the Sorcerer goes, and he's Evasion 1, so I cast Coruscation because it's higher value, so it hits 4 times. And then he triple ones this. I remember this because it was a fun dice roll. So he takes 1 wound. Not hugely relevant, but it would have been nice if that guy died. Kerawegh doesn't really get to do anything. He can cast a spell. It goes off. We get a token. So at this point, we're feeling pretty good, right? These Wardens are going to Inspire Clash. The Kerawegh hits once, and the Command Stand hits 5 times. I don't know what I did. I don't know, whatever. I think I rolled a die after I had automatically passed it, and just like didn't do it. I literally just spent a token to heal and didn't even take my free hit. And there was no reason to do it. I should have kept the tokens. Though, tokens are mostly irrelevant at this point, to be honest. So I rolled that, planning on like reforming to slide over, and then realized I couldn't move because he only had the 1 stand left, so I'm like, I won't do that. So the only thing I'm a little nervous about here is that I didn't get enough Aura of Death off. So I'm only ahead by 1 victory point here, going into turn 7. It is 6-7. I have 2 more because I killed Warlord, but this is a lot closer than I would like it to be. I've basically won this flank. He's not going to beat the Hold Ballista. If he survives the 9 Aura of Death hits, which he very well could, he still probably dies to another Corsication before I even have to do anything with the Hold Ballista, and he's never going to kill me. I'm going to generate enough tokens that I'm literally just never going to die. I can just spend all of my tokens on defense, like just spend up to 3 on defense, and then spend, you know, the rest of the up to 5 on healing, and easily kill those Legionnaires. In this specific case, what would happen, if he survived Aura of Death, he would lose a stand almost for sure. He would have to probably rally and then clash me. His 5 attacks, it's 2.5 hits. I negate at least one of those hits. I roll 1 save. I maybe fail the resolve, but I probably just heal it. Then I unmake, or then I hone blades, and I'm clashing on 3s to finish him off. So he goes first on turn 7. He goes Bone Golems. He says clash. I say dead. I had 1 wound. I felt that was a safe bet. And then he just reforms. So now I'm not in flank charge with Warden's range. So I go with Kerawegh. And I believe I just cast Rancor on Ballistae again. I don't want my Ballistae to go early this round because I have Aura of Death, so I'm just expecting him to die. There's actually a reasonable argument to be made, since he still had 7 wounds left, to go with Steelshaper early and do Unmake Armor, so that he would be saving on 1s against the Aura of Death. But I end up just generating a token and casting Rancor so that I can score. And then I do move into my Wardens immediately. This was the plan, right? Like, the Wardens on the other side were hoping to flank and maybe pick up some Bone Golems. So we just Inspire Clash because I realized there's literally nothing for me to do. So we're just going to kill those guys. I definitely didn't need to Inspire, but those Wardens aren't doing anything the rest of this game. So the Legionnaires go here. They're going to draw event, but it's not going to matter because I say Aura of Death 9, and he says that's 7 wounds, and I'm not alive anymore. So I take this as an opportunity to, like, fix my regiment. Just some tabletop simulator things. And then my Fireforged go, and they just take aim volley. Basically, anytime you get a take aim with Fireforged, you feel really good about it. They've been really random this game. They've gotten like 10 hits or like 1 hit or 2 hits. So they kill a full stand. Steelshaper goes. Doesn't matter. Hellbringer wheels all the way around and marches. It takes like 6.4 or something, and then he marches like 7.4 and just barely steps into the zone. Doesn't really matter. We're just setting up for next turn. And if I wanted to charge off of the zone with my Wardens, I would be able to. So Hellbringer is just charging up tokens. I believe we cast course, or no, we don't. We're not in range to cast a spell, so we just cast no spell with our Tempered Sorcerer, which is the sadness. That's a very sad thing. So I try to cast the Resolve spell on my Wardens, and then I go for a charge into the Bone Golems. So I give myself, Inspired, and then I'm trying to charge in. The thing is, if I can do 7 wounds here, the Bone Golems shatter. And if I shatter the Bone Golems, I win the game. But instead I roll a 1. So I score 3 points, and he scores 2 points. And then we go into turn 8. And this is, at this point, it's very, very hard for me to lose, right? Like, even the Bone Golems, if they can't kill me on a charge because... Oh yeah, I realized I just forgot to go with, like, 2 of my units. So these guys just reform and march forward. So the Bone Golems, even if they kill me, or even if they charge me, they have to charge Clash me. And then I charge them with a Drake to make sure they're still off the zone. And Fireforged just get in the way of Canifors. And he's just never going to be able to... I'm going to score 3 points for the rest of this game. And Dice literally... He could roll all 1s, and I could roll all 6s, and it wouldn't change anything. I have enough tokens that he can't kill the Drake, and, you know, it's not good. It's not a good place for him to be. So, we were able to... Really, this was on the back of Steelshaper Supremacy. I was able to just slowly heal just enough to keep units going for a long enough duration in this game that I was able to wait for Dice to come back around. I do think it really hurt him to have Canifors on that far side, so that one deployment of Legionnaires and Canifors being swapped would have helped him a lot. However, he needed Canifors to kill Wardens, so he would have had to commit Bone Golems to kill Wardens, because the Legionnaires probably weren't going to do it. Like, Legionnaires very likely just die to Wardens, So he goes with Bone Golems here. I believe he just goes for the Charge Clash. And I shuffled my deck, if you watched that. That was cool. I hit R on it, and the whole deck shuffled. So I had to fix that. And here's some Skying Bone Golems. I actually catch them before they land on anything to cause any problems, so that was cool. So we draw a circle around where this forest was, and we put them in, and... So yeah, just 12 attacks on 3s with 1s, so of course he hits with 12 out of 12, and I just have no way of surviving this. Because I'm looking at it, even 7 attacks on 1s probably still kills me. So I was just going to spend all 7 or all 5 of them on just the hit. And I probably still should have, because I actually just don't have another use for tokens for the rest of this game. But part of my consideration here is that, like, I can use them on Drake if Drake charges in. So I die. I clap back. Two hits. He survives. I go with Fireforged. I just take aim volley. Unfortunately, he's all in terrain. So I'm a little sad about that. And I only hit with 2. So I'm a little sad about that. It does get the 1 stand that's there. Canifors can't really afford to do anything. They just have to sit on the zone. Kerawegh doesn't do anything. He just tries to get a spell off. He does. You know, we're just generating tokens here. Other Kerawegh's dead. Steelshaper, same deal. Just generates a token. Honeblades on himself. Hellbringer Drake just spends all of them because there's not going to be another chance to. So he's up to 16, 17 shots, which gets reduced to 9. He only hits with 3. So, you know, back to these types of dice rolls. At least all 3 of those go through. Boy on top hits once. Goes through. Wardens just reforming back up. Other wardens are dead. Hold Ballistae. Just march 5, and I think like 2 stands. I mean, everything's obscured, so we just take shots with the 2 stands that can see. But my Warlord is still alive and is safe. His Warlord is dead, and I'm going to score 3 points this turn, and there's nothing he can do about it. To his 2. So it's going to be, I believe, 13 to 10 at that point. And all I have to do is prevent him from scoring the middle. So I miss with all 5 of the shots into him, but I literally pull up the calculator here and do quick math on whether or not Corsication or Fireball is better, and Corsication is very slightly better. So I roll in. And he didn't roll a single 3, so it was much better. So there's pretty big because it kills a stand and breaks him. So now he would have to rally and charge, but he can't score the zone. It was really mostly important to get him down to like 2 stands, because then the Drake outnumbers him. I guess Drake's 4 with the character on top. So it's mostly just like make sure he can't kill me. And when I'm sitting on a pile of tokens, it's very unlikely for him to be able to kill through the Drake. So yeah, I'm up 13, actually 15 to 10 on turn 9, and we play it out because, you know, playing Conquest, but at this point, obviously, it's pretty well decided. I think I finally win priority. No, I don't. So his Canifores go, and they can't do anything, so he just backs up. He's like, I just don't want him to get shot. I'll keep my zone. I go with Hellbringer. It actually might be a mistake. I think I'm considering like charging and then just spending 5 tokens. Oh, that's right. I was considering charging because I'm at 9 tokens. So I was considering charging and spending 5 tokens on the impacts and then 4 tokens on the clash, but then I was like, all right, I'm in a forest, so I can't do that. Just dump all of my tokens in to get as many hits as possible. And then the Bone Golems go, and then they like... So just remove the 1 stand, and I think he just charges me, but he's in terrain, so he like rally charges. To just get a little Aura of Death on the Drake, which of course isn't going to matter, right? Because Caster's going to go, and he's going to Corsication point blank, and we get 5 hits, and then we do 2 wounds, and it's over from there. So this is a good example of how Dweghom kind of just stays in the game. These Fireforged were able... There was nothing that could ever reasonably get to them, right? Like, he was forced to score, so he couldn't do anything to threaten the Fireforged. And... yeah. So basically that, I guess. He had to score victory points, because if you look at it from this is what I'm doing in a tournament, I can't win if I leave the zone, so I have to just sit here and score, but the game's over on 7 because he simply was just out of units that could score. The flip side of it is, had there been Legionnaires over there, then maybe those Wardens don't die, and he has to commit over there. He has to commit on the far left side. And I don't know. I don't think I think at the time that he committed the Legionnaires, the Bone Golems were doing pretty well on the right side. So it was reasonable to believe that they might actually win that flank. At which point he might need the Canifores to deal with the Wardens on the far left. And I think either way, though, I think even if you commit the Canifores on the far left flank, you have to commit Legionnaires on the far left flank. Hindsight being what it is. Yeah, so we do like 5 wounds to Canifores here. We were just breaking. We were seeing if I could break them with a shot to try to, get an extra victory point. Or prevent an extra victory point. So it ends up 21-12 because I never remembered Warlord. But I don't know. That was a pretty good game. Wardens, of course, almost always do very well. Had I remembered to duel the... had I remembered to use Pursuit of Ogham to duel the Hierodeacon, it's evasion 2 with 4 wounds. It has a reasonable chance of surviving. But if it doesn't, it has a reasonable chance of dying too. And if it dies, then he shatters over there. So, and I don't take he doesn't get the spell off, which did 6 wounds to me. No, it did more than that. It did 9 wounds to me. So, remember your rules, kids. It's helpful. I finally have an affiliate link. It gives you a 10% discount if you use it. I think I get 10% of your purchase in store credit if you do that. I honestly don't even know what my side of it is. But if you want to buy models and you want to help me out, click the affiliate link that's down below and buy models through that, and you'll get a 10% discount, and I'll get a little bit of a kickback. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully hopefully time avails me a little better and I start getting to do more than just 1 video a week. I'd really like to start a series where I talk about list building and list building elements and what you're planning on getting out of the things that you put in the list. But, right now I'm just playing as much Conquest as I can, and then I enjoy talking about it. Thanks again for listening, and have a great week.